session, so I'm just going to hit record now. But yeah, I'll just let you do a couple of warm-up laps before we really get cracking. I'm just going to turn down my volume. But have you already done some? You've already done some practice laps here.
I did some practice laps, and I did a few races, and I actually have been using two-footed braking, left foot braking.
Okay.
So
yeah. Okay.
I'm trying.
Yeah. So
what's great about it is I can actually correct now immediately, as opposed to having to move my foot, which has been helpful.
Yes, it's definitely an advantage. Although, having said that, there were still drivers in Formula One up until like the mid to late 90s who right foot braked. So it's not the end of the world, but it definitely makes your life easier if you can, do both at the same time. So even if it's not doing both at the same time, but you're just immediately coming off the throttle and straight on the brake. So I find that
I'm noticing it. I think it's helpful for me.
Cool. I'll just let you get a couple of laps in, but I've got quite a bit to say on this track. Thankfully, it's quite a simple track in terms of the number of corners, so we don't have that many corners to work on, but because the car's quite slow, it still takes a minute and a half to get around. So
do you want me to share my screen?
At the moment, just carry on as you are. As soon as, once you've got a couple more laps on the board, then I'll get you to share your screen and we'll have a little chat about the circuit. I can see what I need to see at the moment for for an initial shakedown.
My wheel started to come off.
Okay, I did wonder what went on then. Okay, well in that case, you can share your screen now, and then we'll go again maybe with a fresh run. Although your car should be okay because damage is turned off. I think
it says it's good. Yeah, I
good.
started looking at kind of attachments for where I can put the wheel and pedals on that I could still kind of use at my desk. The problem is I don't have a lot of room behind me because there's a bed in here. So I don't know. I might look into. I might actually send you. There were two that I was looking at that seemed like they might be possibilities.
Okay. Yeah, I'm more than happy to give you my opinion on equipment stuff. And I'm glad that you're. I'm glad that you're getting deeply enough into it that's what we're on to now. Okay, cool.
Well, the other thing that I'm realizing is how bad my brake pedal is, because I'd touch it and it's like already almost halfway. The pressure's like.
Yeah, it's very very tough when you've not got a solid permanent fixed rig. So. I'll always take that into account. I've never sat here thinking, why can't he perfectly execute this really difficult thing that requires, high-end equipment to do. Like you are having to muddle by slightly. So, but you're doing a good job.
We can talk about my experience at Maggots and Beckett's last week.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're okay talking about it whilst you're trying to do these laps. I don't want to distract you.
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
It's hard. There was significant performance anxiety going into Beckett's during races. A few times I was able to do it, but eventually I just kind of used what I knew would work.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, at some point you have to... wow, your graphic settings are way better than mine. Looking at the way the sunlight just came through on yours. Oh. That doesn't happen on mine, so maybe there's a performance advantage to be gained by actually turning down that element, because that blinded me on your screen, but it was completely fine on my screen. That's interesting. Sorry, yeah, at some point you have to you know, there's no more time to practice because you're actually in the race. So you've got to just do what works at that point.
Yeah. But I basically set an active reset right before maggots and just kept running it over and over
That's
and
a good
over
idea.
again. And it was pretty good. So what happened with this one was my foot got caught under the clutch when I was braking.
Okay.
That is one problem with this setup with the two-footed braking.
Yeah, so your light, whatever setting we've got on for the light on yours is a lot more fancy than on mine. So I think that's why the sunlight's coming in and really blinding you at certain points. But I'll just keep an eye on that.
Does make turning, turning into turn one fun.
Wow, I mean, it looks spectacular. It's extremely realistic. Much more than mine does.
It does look good. I end up squinting, which doesn't actually do anything.
So let's just do a few more laps until we're happy you've got something that, you know, you're happy is relatively representative of what you can do.
Okay.
Good first impressions that you're not afraid to use the entry curb, so that's really nice.
I listened to your shirt.
I bet there's more though. I bet we're going to be using more. But overall, this looks good though. The amount of entry curb and apex curb I've seen used is good. Pretty lenient at this track in a few places.
Yeah. This is where that left-footed braking was helpful because I was able to stop that spin.
Yeah. Yeah, in the high-speed corners where you're kind of just flirting between throttle and brake there, that's where it's particularly useful. Yeah, so I can already see a few things we're going to talk about, but you're not doing anything wrong. It's more about how much the car can cope with in a couple of these fast corners, how we access that. Wow, we need to fix that light level on your graphic settings. It's too realistic, and it's definitely a performance deficit. I'm watching your screen and my screen like literally side by side, and I can see perfectly clearly on my own screen and nothing at all when I'm on board with you.
Yeah, going into, I guess, what is it, turn 5, the one after this one,
yeah,
also makes it so that I can't follow the line. It's too bright.
Okay, we'll look at that as the first thing we do once you finish this run. Got a good time on the board there, though. 35 is a great starting point. So.
Yeah, that's actually pretty close to my best.
Okay. Just do one or two more. When you're happy, we'll stop and we'll take a little rest. But you've done a good job here so far, especially considering I'm talking at you the whole time.
You know, I watch some of these streamers talking, and it's I don't understand how they do it, especially when they're racing.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not having to think about it, then it's not too bad. When you're having to do conscious stuff, it makes it hard. Okay, let's go one more, because you look like you're in a good little flow here.
Yeah, that was I think that was my fastest ever. Yeah, that was my best lap.
Excellent. Well, that's all right. That's quite a nice point to end on. That's fine. So, hop out of the car. We'll let the data upload. But whilst we're out, we'll have a look at your graphics settings. So if you just hit options and go to graphics, I just want to see what is causing that. Right, I think it might be HDR. Where else would it be? Your sky's on low. It's got to be HDR, hasn't it? I'm just opening mine so I can see them side by side. I'm trying to see the only thing that you've got on there that I don't. So I've got ultra detail shading. There's nothing in the middle section that's ticked. Headlight on track, I've got that too. Oh no, I don't. No, it doesn't make any difference though because it's not headlights. I can only think it's HDR. I think that must be it.
So I'll have to do a restart, it looks like, if I turn this off, which is fine.
Okay, just turn it off anyway and see what happens. But that's really the only thing I can see. Particles are high detail. Yeah, I think that's it. But anyway, we'll just go with it for this one. Right, let me bring up your data from that run. And we'll have a quick compare. But yeah, in general, really, really good. I'm going to give you an overview already before I even look at this. I'm going to say the high-speed corners, I think we can carry quite a bit more speed through. So it's about how we do that. And I think a couple of the slower corners, you're turning in relatively early. Certainly turn 3, the hairpin at the top of the hill. So I think we're going to fix that. Here we go. Yeah, your best ever lap. That's great. That's a good time to do it. Let's add that to this. Let's swap our colours around. I might have explained this to you before, but it's just purely because it's normally the other way around. Right, here we go. Okay, so yeah, look, I mean, you're doing all the right stuff in general. We can see pretty much everything looks kind of similar to what I'm doing as the blue line, but what looks a little bit different is all of your braking events have a massive spike initially and then come down. So your peak brake pressure is much higher than mine on every single corner. Yep. You're also using 6th gear several times, and I don't think you ever need 6th gear on this track in this car, unless you're in a slipstream with someone else. So I'm certainly not losing out anywhere by not going up to 6th. It's just an additional bit of work for you to have to do by clicking up. I also don't think you're losing out massively by using 6th. I just think it's an unnecessary additional thing to do on the way into each corner. Okay. Let's just take a quick look at lines before we look in the speed and detail. So, and I'll look at your video too. Okay, so yeah, so turn 1, on this lap at least, definitely you're going in a little bit earlier than me. Although, interestingly, you still didn't come out as wide, so that suggests there's more speed that could be carried, because even though you went in earlier, you still managed to come out tighter. Which
I'm slowing down too much, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going in, you can see, we're just going in a little bit slower than we could do. Your minimum speed's actually pretty much bang on. It's just you're at that minimum speed or around it for a much longer period. You've got this kind of flat section on the bottom of your speed trace. So that suggests you've slowed it down a bit early, maintained a roughly steady speed, and then sped up again. We're going to try and have a bit more of a point. So okay, that's something we can do. How much is that? That's like, that's roughly half a second there. That would be turn 1, 3 or 4 tenths at least. That's something. Let's look at the line into here, because I think it's this one that I was noticing the most. Okay, good. I'm glad I wasn't just seeing things. You are turning in really early to that hairpin, and that's obviously making you have to go through there slower. Certainly having a minimum speed later, and you're slowing down earlier because you're turning in earlier. So we're going to fix that. That's going to be quite a straightforward one. Straightforward in theory, at least. I'm just going to tell you to stay left for longer. So we'll look on the video at exactly where you're allowed to peel off. We'll check that in a moment. Downhill.
Are you hitting the sausage curb at that turn? Whatever that is, 3 or 4 or 2? I guess it's technically 2.
Yeah, I think they tend to call it turn 3, but I know what you mean. It's the second actual corner. Let's go with this. Let's have a look. So that's where I'm getting to. So
oh wow! Okay.
I don't think it matters if you touch the sausage curb. You can ride on top of it. But in terms of where we're turning in, so certainly we're fully on the curb past the 50 board, and then so where does so my rear wheel comes off the curb at the penultimate red square, and obviously you can see that just gives it a much easier angle into here, which means you can get up the power a lot earlier. And if we just see, just for distance sake, where yours is. Oh, I love how objective we can be with this. This is so much quicker than doing it in real life. Yeah, so you're starting to peel off before you're even at the 50 board. So you're off the curb pretty much by the 50, and mine is there. So you can just see what that's about to do. Like,
oh yeah, I'm making it so much shorter there. Okay.
Yeah, you're taking a shorter line, but you're making it way tighter. The amount of steering lock you need to get through there, like the angle your car is at here versus mine was facing across, pretty much level with the 2 points on that yellow thing. So you're having to slow it down more. It's just tougher. So that's fine. Okay. That's easily fixed because we've got a bit of a reference point here. Just stay on the curb, keep your nose down the middle of the red curb basically until you're after the 50, and in fact almost at the end of this, and then get it turned in. It'll also mean you can brake later and carry more speed in the braking zone because you won't have any steering angle on in the braking zone. At the moment you're having to brake and slightly turn in at the same time, so it's just making everything a little harder. Whilst we're at the beginning of the lap, let's just take a look at how much curb you're using on the entry here. That's not bad, actually. If you go a whole lot more than that, you get an off-track. If all 4 wheels are past the white line here, I think. So that's not bad. Where are we turning in here? It looks on the GPS like you're going in a little bit early. So it's definitely not terrible. The thing that I would change is allowing yourself to run out wider here, a bit like the next corner that we just looked at. Because I think, if I'm not imagining things, I'm using a similar but more exaggerated amount of curb here. So
well, you're well off. So you're well off there. So I have much more room.
Yeah, and that's not an off track. So actually, maybe it's only if you go even further than that you get an off track. But yeah, that was definitely a legal lap. But the turn-in is definitely later. But it's like I said, it's not that I worry about so much. It's how wide you go there. Because look, you can come all the way out here. I think that's suboptimal. I think I've gone a bit too far because that's losing me a little bit of exit speed. Ideally, I want to run my tyres on the yellow curb as a maximum because now I'm slightly beached. So that's hampered me a bit. But it's somewhere, it's definitely more exaggerated than you're currently doing. So you've got a bit more room to play with. Right, let's get back to the data. Because it's a shortish lap, we'll go over it all, and then you might as well try and extract everything. So next one, this tricky downhill right-hander. We're definitely slowing down quite a lot too soon, so that's something we can fix. We're going to brake how much later? 2055. Yeah, we're going to go like 30 meters later on the brakes. So that's okay.
Okay, so that's closer to the 100-meter board because I'm doing it before. I found if I get too close to the 100-meter, I'm going way too deep.
So it is just before we get to the 100-meter. But very, very, very straight until the last moment. So this is the big thing that we want to change, though. This is what you could see when we were zoomed out like this. These initial big spikes of brake. Now, I appreciate we've already spoken about your brake pedal. So I appreciate this is much harder for you than it is for me because my pedal doesn't move. But if we can make that kind of plateaued shape for a bit longer before you bleed off, rather than the kind of spike and then off, that will be ideal. Although I know this is going to be difficult for you to implement. But at least you can see what we're trying to do. So it's not quite as hard as a peak pressure, but a longer sustained middle pressure, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Then you should
be able to get away with it. I think I'm trying to do it.
Yeah, you can kind of see. I imagine. Just remind me what pedals you've got. Are they the Logitech or is it Thrustmaster?
Yeah, the Logitech.
Yeah, so
Logitech,
it's like
the 923 or whatever.
So it's like pressing just a soft spring, basically, isn't it?
Which is so funny because when I first started doing this, I'm like, this is so hard. I can't even break it now.
Yeah, it's basically
like mud.
Much harder to find that kind of threshold for threshold braking. So I appreciate you're at a huge disadvantage here. So maybe we can fix. If that's the first thing we fix, that's what I'd go for. If you can mount your pedal solidly, and obviously your seat needs to be mounted solidly too, and we get something firmer, you'll find this kind of thing will be so much easier. But anyway, there's some time there. So if we can do it, we can do that. Obviously, without having to go up to 6th gear as well. So that'll give you a bit more time to get down the 2 gears rather than the 3. Minimum speed, though, is actually slightly too fast. So you can slow it down a little bit more at the apex. But yeah, so that's that. Here's where it gets hard, though, and this is where most of the lap time is. It's going to be these chunks here. you've got high speed, high speed, high speed, high speed. All these corners are high speed. So let's just... This first one I think is probably going to be the toughest to change. So let's just jump on board with you through there and see what we're doing. We'll obviously do a recap of all these things we've spoken about before I send you back out.
Yep.
But...
And
yeah,
one thing that would be really helpful if you could is, I learn a lot. I learned so much just by watching. Like if you could upload your entire lap
yeah.
to the or replay the entire lap, it's
Yeah.
so helpful for me to
We'll do that then.
watch.
We'll do that in a moment, so you've definitely got it at the end of this, and then we'll carry on. So one other thing here, I noticed, like we've seen in a couple of other corners, see how you've peeled off, you've begun your turn,
off. Yeah.
and now you're in the middle, and now we turn in. So that will also help your braking stability if you just stay straight until you actually need to turn in.
Yeah.
I know I said we were going to the next corner, but I just want to show you this comparison. Hopefully I'm about to do what I want to show you. So yeah, straight, then turn. So it's like...
So it's almost the same point that you turned back at turn 2.5.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it is. Yeah, the rear wheels come off the curb at that second to last red bit. Yeah, and so I think that also is helping me brake in a straight line with the firm pressure. So right, here we go. Let's go back to your high. Here we go. High speed corners. This is where it's going to get a bit more like nebulous and difficult to put an exact finger on what to change, because this is where it's like blending the pedals, judging the entry speed. But let's see what we can see from this. I'll go on board and then I'll... So that's good. So this is a good start. Using this extra curb, this is great. So good start. Your line is really good. Your line is really good into there. You're just not quite maximising the mid-corner speed. There's a little bit more the car can take. So this is perfect. It's slowing it down slightly too much. That's the issue. It's just staying on the brakes a bit too long. So if we just go here... or I should say, staying on them as hard as you are for so long. So I'm braking similar amount of time, maybe slightly less when you add it all together, but much less pressure. So you can just see how our speed lines diverge there. So that's all we need to do. We just need to slow it down a bit more gradually, and your minimum speed, which is currently 131, we're going to make it happen later, and it's going to be slightly higher than it currently is. But yeah, I'm getting down to my minimum speed there, so just as I approach the inside, and you're basically slowing it down before you get into the corner and then driving through the corner. You can see what you're doing on the gas here. By slowing it down early, you then are prompted to get back on the power into the corner, which then is going to understeer, it's going to push you on, and then you're going to have to get back off the gas again, which is what happens here. So this is all like a weight transfer issue going on here. Because you're slowing it down too much, you're then also thinking you've got poor front end grip because you're getting back on the power earlier than you should be able to, and it's lifting the front up and pushing you wide. So you're kind of getting tricked by the car. It's making you think there's less grip than there is. Whereas if you're going a bit quicker and just trust the aero, you'll have more weight on the nose because you'll be decelerating for longer into the corner, and you'll have more downforce because you're going quicker, and you won't be lifting the nose up by accelerating, and so the lap time will just come. So you just have to be super smooth with the steering. That's all. But yeah, that's that one. It's not going to be easy to implement, but it's there. At least you don't have to brake much. And then on the exit here, you can use a bit more of this curve. So you can actually be right out on the green here and stay there. Treat it like the track is that much wider, because then you've got this lovely entry into this one where you can just use this bit of tarmac. So you see where you're kind of like, you're nearly...
So that's not an off track if I go off the curb there?
No,
I'll keep going straight? Okay.
I'll show you how much I use. I only know this because I just tried it out. And, I've got plenty of off tracks in my laps, but not here. Never once at this point. So I'm off here, and I'm staying all the way wide here.
I see.
So
okay. Well, that's helpful.
One car width more gives you that much more room to turn into here.
Yep.
And then exactly the same on the exit. This is not an off track, believe it or not. All the way out. Okay. I'm on the gravel, and it's not an off track. So... yeah, but I mean, let's look at another one. This one, hopefully, is a bit tidier. I probably didn't intend to go on the gravel, but you get the idea. I'm trying to go as wide as possible. So again, all the way out here. So I managed to be relatively clean this time. That was too clean. Much too clean. But anyway, we want to run wide out here, is the point. So let's just go back to you, and we'll just check the data again. So I know this is taking a while to get through, even though it's a short lap. But hopefully it's a relatively
this is-
consistent message. Like, you understand all the stuff I'm saying here. So.
Yep. No, this
So-
is really helpful for me.
So yeah, you basically, at this point, it's kind of fine. Well, you can be slightly wider, and you just tighten the corner up earlier than you need to because you're trying to be legal, and you just don't need to be that legal. Through the middle there, similar to the previous corner, yeah, and you can see I want you to run out onto at least the curb, but I'd rather it was onto the green and white pyramids there. That would be the ideal place to end up, because then you've definitely carried enough mid-corner speed. So let's just take a look. Is it the same thing as the previous corner in terms of overslowing? Yeah, you can see what we're doing here again. So we're doing one big brake early, and then you're off the brakes before you're even into the corner, whereas I'm doing a gentle brake all the way in. It keeps the weight on the nose, and I'm travelling faster all the way through. So basically, trust the downforce on entry. It's not flat out, clearly, but it's just quite a bit quicker than you're currently allowing it to be.
Yeah.
I'm talking
And
about
you're not taking your foot off the throttle at all there. You're just lightening it a bit, right?
It's not fully off, yeah. For this one at least. The previous corner I am. This one, this one is kind of like nearly all the way off. It's not a bad thing though. If you want to do a full lift, that's absolutely fine. You're not going to lose a lot of time. The reason we're losing time is by doing a full lift plus a big spike of brake.
Huge brake.
That's what's stopping it. And then obviously again, same thing through the middle of the corner. You won't have much downforce. I mean, the fact that you can come off that narrow though shows how much more speed there was to carry. So we want to just let it flow wider. Giving yourself that freedom, more width on the entry on that bit of asphalt on the right, plus more freedom on the right on the exit, is going to just make you feel like the car. You can just flow so much more easily through there. So I'm sure you'll see a big gain there. And again, no sixth gear. And then the final couple of corners. This is going to be a similar story. The last corner looks like it's the biggest one here. So again, we'll flatten the braking down. So half the pressure and for a bit longer. I know it's hard to feel pressure with a spring, but you know what I mean. Your entry into here is not that bad though. This isn't bad. It's just that we carry on slowing it down more than we need to. Don't bother with fifth gear on the way in there. So we'll go down to fourth for both of the final corners. I found that better. It'll help your rotation a little bit as well.
Sometimes it does. I'll have to check. Sometimes I try and shift down to fourth and it doesn't let me.
It might be when you're clicking, because I'm going down quite late. It's there. I'm nearly into the corner, so it might be a denied shift if you're doing it when the revs are too high. So it's that's it. So you can see here, it's brake down. It's like
Okay, I see. I know where you are there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And then final corner. This is going to be the big one. There is way more speed you can carry through the final corner. I haven't watched you through here on this replay yet, so let's just see how much curb we're using. This is good. This is perfect. Good line. I mean, obviously you can be slightly closer to the curb, but it's a good line.
So funny. I feel like I'm on the limit when I do this. Where should I be? I'm kind of using the end of that, where that kind of red and white stripe is as my braking point, or just before it. Is that?
Oh, for the final corner. That's a great question. Yeah. We'll find out in a minute, because I don't really know. I just feel my way in, so I'll watch mine in a moment.
Right.
This is good that you're using all this curb. This is great, even though technically that's not legal, but it allows you, so it's fine. Yeah. Okay. So here I know you can't hear it, but I can feel it and hear it and see. You do quite a big brake now.
Yep.
And then get it turned in. And really, I'm just touching it and sending it in, because I actually want the car to go fully off the track on the exit. It's not an off track. So whereas you're quite easily keeping it on, and you're actually deliberately driving wide here, you're steering there. It wants to look a little bit more like this wild, crazy thing you're about to see here. When we get that, and I will run a full replay of this lap in just a second. So same as you on the way in here. Just slightly closer to the curb, all the way out here just like you, maybe slightly further, but this wasn't an off track.
Wow, you're really just barely touching it.
This was not an off track. That's how wide you can go.
All right.
It is crazy. If you stay out here, you'll get an off track, but you can come out at this point here, and I wouldn't even say that's ideal. I think I would probably want to go slightly shorter distance than that, but the fact of the matter is you can carry bucket loads of speed into there. So let's look at the braking point. So you said end of this thing here, didn't you? It's pretty similar, though. Just before I get there. That's where I'm on. If I go in slow-mo.
Yep. And I think in reality, that's kind of where I'm braking too. I just use that as a reference and
that much, and then off and back to full throttle pretty early. Oh, I could have got a bit closer there. Yeah, so back to full throttle just past the yellow curb. But running wide, and it just doesn't give you an off track. So you have to go really wide to get an off track. So I'll just play that through in full. Do you want to see it from the onboard? Is that the best? Or is outside best?
Yeah, I think from the cockpit's probably good.
Let's do it. Right, here we go. So I know right now you can't hear it. Oh, you're going to want to see the brake, aren't you? There we go. You will hear this obviously on the recording. Yeah, that was too wide. You can feel it scrape along and slow the car down. It just happened to be my best lap, that's all. But that wasn't the ideal line through there. And then staying on the curb past the 50, turning in at the last minute. And obviously using all the track out to the yellow sausage curb. You don't have to nail this first time, but even if you just increase your speed slightly and do that slightly later turn in, same with this one, you're going to find a chunk of time. And even if you just go slightly quicker in the high speed corners, you're going to find a load of time.
Okay.
So same as you here, I'm using a bit of this curb. Very smoothly back on the gas there as well. Otherwise, you push wide. So I'm not going straight to full throttle. It's like smooth, then full throttle. Yeah, that wasn't an off track, that one. It's crazy how wide it lets you go. Yeah, that was too wide, but it was still my quickest lap, so there we go. Right.
Great, thank you.
I think that's it. I think we've got our targets. So whilst you're doing your out lap and you're getting the tyres warm again, I'll just try and remind you of the things we just covered. But I think that's it for the moment, and I think there's quite a bit of time.
I'll share my screen again.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it is useful to see. You're gonna have to deal with that sunlight. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That's not ideal. So on the outlap, just go through the motions of the later turn in, even if you don't actually have to do it for the speed you're going, because you're just getting the tyres warm and everything. Just so you get a feel for the location that you're going to be turning in. Yeah, so that's a good start already. Obviously, you open the steering in the middle there, anticipating some oversteer, which is why it ran wide, but the entry line was good. So same thing with this one. Just stay directly straight on the curb for the braking, and then at the last minute turn in. And obviously, if you find it won't go in, you probably just needed to brake a little bit firmer, or not harder peak pressure, but just firmer, consistent pressure. And the other thing was, obviously, don't ever use 6th gear because you just don't need it. Use quite a lot of exit curb here. With the cold tyres, it will push wide.
Maybe not so much exit curb.
Yeah, once the tyres are warm, that won't be so bad, so don't worry about that. Nice. Yeah, it's good. You got it down a gear. Yeah, okay. So obviously that was a little too wide, but when the tyres are warm, it won't do that. So... And remember, you've got that little bit of extra space you can move into on the exit of turn 1, but I can see we're already up, so this is great.
Yeah, just the amount of speed I was carrying at the end really helped. That's so much better.
Yeah, you've given yourself, the possibility to brake later and brake harder in a straight line, and you have a better line on the way into the corner. So it's just all positives. That one, I think we just need a little bit more firm pressure in the middle of the braking zone, because you were still going a little bit quick when you turned in. But this is fine though. You're doing a great job. The tyres aren't even fully warm yet. I think we turned in a tiny bit early. I think we didn't. I don't think the speed was crazy. I just think we turned in a little bit too soon, as in just before the speed had got scrubbed off enough. Yeah. Even so, you're not that far behind your best lap, even though you've just been through the gravel.
No, this is incredible.
Yep, so no off track there.
Off track.
Yeah, that's good. So there's a lot of potential here. So I'm gonna leave you
best
to
lap.
Yeah, you're doing really well. Just see if you can keep it on the track on the exit of this one. Oh, almost. just a tiny bit too hard on the gas, but you're going to get a feel for that. We just need to keep doing it. The elevation change in the middle of the corner is really tough. Better. Yeah, you need time to go through it a few times and get used to how it feels. You've got to do quite a lot of proactive steering adjustment as you kind of go over the crest. You have to open the steering, but not too early. For that corner you just went through, I think we'll just bring the apex speed down 2 or 3 miles per hour. That's a better line into there. Okay. Next lap, this is all going to come together.
I had to get on the throttle kind of late there.
Excellent entry into there. Really, really good. That one probably wasn't off track. Yeah, that was a little bit wide. I'm going to just clear that penalty.
That was very much an off track.
Don't worry about that penalty. I'm just clearing it.
I'm used to being in 6th there, so I think I was a little out of sorts and dropped down too far to
Yeah, don't worry. You'll get the muscle memory back for that.
Yeah, right, I knew I put too much on.
Okay, so I have a tip for you for that corner, right? So I'm just watching that back now because I could see it happening. Be super, super smooth on the gas. And I know that sounds obvious, but that'll mean you don't need to straighten the steering. What happened on that one was you anticipated you were going to get oversteer, and you unwound the steering.
You cut out for a second, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I think we just had a slight connection drop out.
Yeah.
It's okay. Well, whilst you're parked in the gravel here, I'll just tell you. So in that hairpin, turn 3 on this lap, you anticipated that you were about to get oversteer because you're used to getting on the power a little bit too hard and oversteer happening. So in anticipation of that, you straightened the wheel, which then put you wider, which then meant when you turned again, exactly at the point you were getting on the throttle, it then spun the wheels. So if we get into the habit of always being super smooth on the power, so you never have oversteer on the exit there, you won't have to anticipate and go wider. You can just turn the wheel in and then straighten it as you bring the power on. What you don't want to do, you don't have enough room to straighten mid-corner. You're going to then go off the track, over the yellow sausage curb or have a spin. So if that made any sense. Can you actually see my screen at the moment?
No, I cannot.
Well, I'll show you when you finish this run anyway.
Right.
But basically, be mega, do everything the same, except be super smooth as you apply the throttle, and don't straighten the wheel unless you actually get oversteer. So you don't need to kind of walk the car wide at the apex unless it's actually sliding. And if you're really smooth on the gas, it won't be sliding. and then you kind of cure that problem before it happens. But you're doing all the entry phase perfectly. That's why I just want to help you with the middle bit. That's nice. That's a good effort through there. And you can see how green your delta went.
Yeah, that felt really good.
Yeah, you balanced the throttle. You didn't get on it too hard or anything like that. And the line was great. Okay, cool. That last sector was excellent.
I felt it understeer, and I just stayed off the gas. I'll get that time back.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, it's because we had an issue before. You like underdrove it through there that time.
Yes.
Okay, so just enter like before. They'll be super smooth on the gas as you exit. And then you won't need to correct any oversteer. Okay, we're going to just build your confidence back up with the entry speed.
Yeah. I think I didn't slow it down enough, so I didn't feel like I could turn when I needed to.
Enough.
I came off too early, but that still felt pretty good.
Yeah, you still gained a chunk of time, so this is fine. Wow, that sunlight is so difficult to see.
Going into this turn is a killer.
Okay, well done. Well done for sticking with it. It was the previous corner where we obviously lost a bit, but we'll talk about that after. Well done for getting down to fourth. Yeah, you're gaining so much time through that final corner now.
I'm seeing that now. Jeez.
Yeah, this is so much better through there. Good. Okay, so on this lap, we'll push the entry speeds a little bit more in turn 1 and 3, this next one coming up. So it doesn't have to be crazy fast, just a bit quicker than it was on the last lap. You've got a little bit more front-end grip than you gave it credit for last time. That's it. Excellent. We still did that little wheel straighten. You still preempted a bit of oversteer there. So we'll just try and avoid that, because obviously that's the only reason you went wide on that yellow sausage curb. Really nice into there. That's good. It kind of hooked in.
Yeah, I could feel it. That felt really good.
So in this next one, don't get on the gas too hard if you feel it's understeering. Just be slightly patient. The moment the front grips up, then go for it. Nice one. Yeah, you got the space. This is good. Really, really good. And your optimals now in the 33s. Very tidy into that final corner. Yeah, look at that gain.
Oh, that was cool.
Massive, massive gain. This is good. 8/10 nearly in that final corner. Probably a little bit too fast in that turn 1 that time. I don't know what the apex speed was. I'm just going to have a little look.
This was another situation. My foot got caught. I wear shoes when I drive, and my foot got caught. It's caught under the clutch sometimes.
Your apex speed wasn't a ridiculous effort there, by the way. You were exactly the same speed as me through the apex, but you were in a little bit wide, and because of the whole situation. Yeah, so you just ran out of track. That's fine, and you already know why. Hey, look at the green on the exit. Now, I know the entry was a bit wide, but you gained so much on that exit because you didn't try and correct oversteer that wasn't happening.
Yep.
You just turned and then straightened. That was good. You still always want to be ready for this oversteer if it happens, but Not if it's not happening. That one obviously was just a bit wide. I'm just going to watch that back and try and forensically analyse. Right, okay.
Felt pretty good, but then I think I just waited to turn too long.
That's exactly what happened. Correct analysis. I was just about to say exactly the same. You did everything right, but you didn't trust yourself, so you waited a little bit longer to turn in, and then you ran out of space. That's exactly what happened. And you said it in a much more succinct way than me as well. Yeah, those last few high-speed corners are looking way more natural now. That whole second half of the
really
lap,
good.
I thought that would be the hardest thing to change, but you're doing a great job with it.
That was me downshifting
Yeah.
because I couldn't see and realizing that I was in.
Yeah. So it's just two downshifts.
Third already.
Yeah, that's it. You
Yeah,
you only
well,
need to do
I just
two,
couldn't
but
see
that's-
it because of the
But
sun.
you didn't lose a crazy amount of time, so you did well. Yeah, well done. So much
That
better.
felt really good.
So much better because you're not correcting invisible slides that aren't happening. That's really, really good.
Yep.
And it's consistent. You know, you are absolutely fine getting on the gas there now. So don't be afraid to turn in. Nice. God, the visibility is 0 for you through there. I can see
Pretty
fine.
much.
So just be patient in the initial phase here. When you see you've got the space, then you can get on the gas.
Well, it gave me a purple for that,
Nice.
although also an off track.
Yeah, you 7/10 up on your best ever sector through there, though. I know it's not gonna count as your permanent best, but good effort there. Okay, we got an off track, but it's not too bad. That's an easily avoided off track. That one in the middle
Yep.
of the last two corners. It's not one that you're trying to get because you don't really gain anything from doing it. So. Excellent. Good job. Okay, so that time we just pushed a little bit too hard through the middle of that corner. So the apex speed was probably slightly too high on that one, but well done for just sticking with it, you know, because if this was a race, you've not really lost any time by that happening. You've just got an off track. Well controlled.
Feel it going. Yeah.
Yep, so we just want to be under control a little bit earlier for that one, because it's downhill quite steeply. It's pretty easy to outbrake yourself into there.
I was just too far. I gotten off track there. That's why
That's
that
all right.
happened.
That's fine.
I don't usually go off there.
When you've done another lap or so, we'll take a look at the data just to see where the big improvements are, how much more there is to come. But this is clearly, you know, you're significantly closer, because I know you haven't had time in this session to achieve it yet, but your optimal's now in the 33s. So you've got the capability easily, with a bit more practice, of getting a legal 33, and then you're only really a second off what I'm doing. So that's pretty good on a 1 minute 30 lap.
Yeah. Pretty happy about that.
Nice entry to turn one. So your line into there was great. There's probably 5 miles an hour more mid-corner speed that you could carry if you were right on the limit, but that looked like a
I
safe...
can feel that.
That was
yeah.
like, you could do that speed every time, though. That was like a nice, consistently achievable one. I think we came off the brakes a little early. That really honestly looked to me like if you had a stiffer pedal, that wouldn't have happened. I could see we decelerated, and then it's like, I can almost feel your foot springing back off because you can't feel how much
couldn't,
pressure.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I like couldn't get it down.
Yeah.
Which I'm
It's
feeling
so much easier to judge the amount of pressure you're applying than the distance that you're pushing the pedal. So I think this is really the biggest area physically that's holding you back now, is those, you know, judging the amount of braking pressure on the way into the corners. So that can be fixed with some hardware.
Yeah, I can't get a consistent response, which makes it difficult.
When you can't feel the deceleration because you're not actually experiencing the G-force, that makes it doubly difficult. If we were being thrown forward every time we braked, then you can kind of get away with that squishy pedal because at least you've got a different reference point. But you've got purely the visuals and the sound, which don't really ram home how much you're decelerating, and that's why you need the firm pedal, really. Right, let's do one more, and then we'll have a quick review.
Oh.
Great effort through turn 1, and you use lots
even
of
with the
exit
short
there.
shift and
Yeah,
and then shifting back down.
Did a good job there. So just make sure you go through the middle of this hairpin at a really under control speed. Nice, okay.
A little too much, but
yeah, but you've still got a good exit, so you're on track still for a great lap. So that's good. Shows you that it's better to be under control. Same with the next corner than it is to try and barrel on in too fast. Cool, good job. So we still went in a tiny bit wide of the apex, but you got a great exit, and you were totally under control. So patient with the throttle. Well done on the entry. Bloody brilliant. That was excellent.
I also couldn't see my line because of the sun.
Well, it's working well, so bring it home. This is great.
All right. No.
Oh, nearly. Finish the lap anyway, because I want to use this one as a reference, because I know the time won't be the best, but everything other than these last two corners will be good to look at.
Yeah.
And we'll use a different lap.
Be interested to see what I did there. For the, yeah.
So I'll tell you what then, once you finish this lap, if you just park up somewhere here, I'll show you the replay of that, and we'll see exactly what happens. I'm going to say we probably went in a little fast and kept the steering lock on and maybe carried the brakes in because you felt you were going too fast, but let's just see. Oh, it was such a lovely entry. Yeah, I think we just tried it slightly too fast. So there's a point here that it starts to get sideways here, and you give it some kind of token opposite lock, but not remotely enough to actually save it. I mean, obviously, things are starting to go wrong anyway if you're having to apply opposite lock. But you see, at that point there, at this point, we really want extreme left-hand lock-on. Like, we want to be turning hard left, because otherwise, you know, you can see where we're currently pointing the front wheels, and the car is pivoting, and we're still basically just allowing it to pivot. So we wanted a bit more decisive early opposite lock, like a bam, like a little kind of tweak of it to kill the slide back when it first started, like now, like a little kind of tweak. But that's kind of curing a symptom. That's addressing a symptom rather than fixing the actual problem. So the actual problem, I think, was excess entry speed. Let's have a look. So you arrived at the apex here, 163. Oh, let's just check the data. We'll be able to see it more clearly on the data. Let's have a look. But yeah, really, really good effort though. That was a lovely run. Like, thanks for
that felt really good.
For putting those things into action well. So let's take the last one to begin with, and then we'll look at one of the ones you did that was a complete lap. But this one here. Let's add you. Turn him green. Okay, so let's zoom right in. Oof, yeah, look, it's so marginal. You're very slightly quicker than me on the way through here.
I see.
And you're still, we're about exactly the same at this point. Oh, it's really, really tight. But at this point here, this is so subtle. If you look at my steering inputs, I'm turning, and then as the car kind of like leans, as the car reacts, I'm just reducing the lock a tiny bit. This is basically you turn, it sits on the suspension. I'm just reducing the lock a little bit to stop it carrying on into an oversteer moment. And here, you see I do this big reduction. I'm back to center, basically, according to the data here. Whereas at that exact point, you're still turning right. Let's just zoom out a bit more. I love delving into these and seeing exactly why. Oh, yeah. Okay, so at this point, you know it's already gone. It's already started to go, because you can see where your green steering trace stops turning right, and you begin this opposite lock here, tiny bit. But it needed to be this much, or a half that much maybe, back here, when you first felt it go. The car just rotated. It'll also be to do with this. You see where... Oh my god, this is so subtle. This feels so harsh. Like, because you did almost everything perfectly, but tiny little things, like you kept like 4 degrees of steering angle on for a fraction of a second too long.
Right.
Whilst, you see how I do this little step in the braking? I braked, and then when I wanted to begin my main turn in, I have like this reduction of brake so that I don't keep too much weight on the nose and elicit that oversteer. And you did exactly the right brake pressure, but you just actually kept it on a tiny bit too hard here. That difference of 12% brake pressure, I think is what's caused the rear to begin to carry on round. And you're allowed to have a tiny error like that, but you need to be ready to have a little catch of it. But if you're dancing with the limit that much, if you're going to go into a corner the same speed as me, which is a hell of a lot quicker than you were going in before, you're probably going to have to be dancing on the limit of the car. So probably, actually, my advice would be just bring it back like 2 miles an hour, which is impossible to judge, obviously. But
I mean, I'm just impressed that I could actually get that brake pressure kind of where I did.
It was nearly perfect. It was nearly perfect. Look at it. Like, you nailed it. Compared to the red one, look how much better that is. But it was at the point where, in fact, if I just go onto my version of that, you're going to see exactly where it is. And it'll suddenly make sense. Guys, it's hard, though, when it's... You match my entry speed, you're on exactly the same line, and it's like, but your car lets go and mine doesn't. Like, why is that? So let's just see it here in full speed. So if you watch the steering, it's not turn and then it goes. It's like steer, a little bit more. I'm like kind of edging the car in, which is what you saw on that steering trace, where it's like for every turn there's like a compensatory, like slight reduction in the steering, because I want the car to react, but I don't want it to overreact, so you're kind of gradually getting it in. So if you watch the steering angle here, it's like in, reduce, in, reduce, in, reduce, because you can see every time I turn it, the car's reacting, and there's my version of the, you see the moment I felt it getting into oversteer,
correction
that was my correction, but because I got it so early, I didn't need to do a big one. That's the correction, and then I can turn again. Whereas yours was developing, it kind of just kept going a little bit longer, and then the longer you leave it without fixing it, the bigger the correction's going to need to be when you eventually catch it, and at some point you obviously can't catch it. So the takeaway from that is maybe you were too perfect there. You were going in at a speed at which your equipment probably couldn't quite give you the information you needed to fix it, and maybe you're not quite at the experience level to match my exact entry speed into a really high speed corner. That's all. But
those really are just like mini corrections that you're doing when I kind of
they're
assumed
preemptive.
that maybe it was the higher feedback or something is making you struggle against it, and you're kind of just fighting the wheel, but this is actually you just making these.
No, it's preemptive
these little corrections.
steering. So none of this is conscious, obviously. It's just I'm feeling the car's response to my steering input, and I've obviously got a relatively quick feedback loop happening where I'm doing a thing, my brain's processing, did the vehicle respond, yes or no? If it responded, was it enough, too much, too little? If the answer's too much, reduce steering slightly, repeat that loop over and over and over and over. So it's like kind of a constant monitoring of, I'm doing this, the car's doing this, and so I need to reduce. If you watch like any Formula One, I'm not comparing myself to a Formula One driver, by the way, but any professional driver's steering inputs in any car, when they're on the limit pushing, if you slowed it down, you'd see all these micro corrections like that, which from the outside just look like the car is turning in one smooth arc, but in reality, it's how you're dancing on the limit is that. It's exactly that, basically. Because it would always be a bit too blunt. If you just did one turn, the car would just go, okay, and then, roll into oversteer, basically. So you're having
and
to...
that's kind of what I'm doing, so it's good to know you can sort of do these little micro corrections that I'm not consciously doing anyway if I'm doing it.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, let's just look at some of yours, for example. I'm just going to go into this corner here. Look, see, you knew.
Now this I'm kind of doing it, yeah.
You're doing it. It's exactly what you're doing. The only difference would be it might be slightly less refined because you haven't had enough experience for it to be perfect, but you're doing exactly the right thing, and I strongly doubt you're consciously doing it either. It's just our mission over every session, really, every time you drive, is to shorten that feedback loop, whether it's on the throttle input, you accelerate a bit and you feel it spinning the wheels and you back off a bit and you go again, and then you feel it spin the wheels and you back off a bit and you go again, that kind of feedback loop. Or on the brakes, brake as hard as you can. Or has it locked? No. In that case, I can increase or maintain pressure. Yes. Okay, I'll reduce, try again. All of those things. That's you're trying to like sharpen up and shorten the intervals between that driving feedback loop. Sorry, I've gone off the rails a bit here. We were going to look at the data. So let's look at the rest of the lap. We've looked at the spin. Let's look at the rest. So turn 1.
Wow.
Okay, so turn 1.
Pretty close.
Yeah, turn 1. I actually don't think you went any quicker on that particular lap, but the brake pressure was a better level. We've kind of gone a bit too far the other way, and we did use.
I'm still starting. I started too late. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm starting too late.
What's the line like? And the line was actually even wider than before, so that wasn't your best turn 1. But let's look at some of these others. Okay, how much? So you're definitely better on the brakes into turn 3 here. This lap we've gone a bit wide in terms of distance. However, your exit was good, but you knew that wasn't a perfect one because we was talking about it in real time that you've gone a bit wide there. So entry line better, but we just didn't turn towards the apex. We're going to look at a different lap in a minute though. This one, turn 4, we're going to call this way better. Like better on the entry, better on the exit. So. And look at the brake pressure as well. Even though you can't feel it very well, you're doing a better job at approximating exactly the kind of pressure that we're after. So that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
High speed, though, this is where we're going to see the big differences. Before we get to the final corners, obviously, we'll look at those in a different lap. Way better. Like, you haven't just gone halfway towards what I'm doing. You're more than that. So that's great. Like, I mean, just the way that you're carrying speed into this corner, which I don't remember what number that is, but just really good. The line was already good there. We're on pretty much the same line there. This slight lack of speed on the exit compared to mine, I think, is because you tried to keep it a bit too tight, which you can kind of see from the green line there on this lap.
Yeah, anyway. I could have gotten on the throttle.
Exactly. We could have gone.
You give it a little kick and then back off and then go again.
Yeah, I'm just trying to maintain the fastest speed that I can carry at this moment. I'm not treating the corner as like a single action. I'm treating the corner as like a living thing that at every different stage of my entry and my mid-corner and my exit, you can break that down into lots and lots and lots of micro stages, and I want to be going as quick as possible at every single element of that. And at one element, I'll be all the way wide with a small amount of steering lock. The next element, I'll be slightly closer to the inside with a certain amount of space. Anyway, basically, you can be adjusting stuff all the time if possible, and that's what that is. I'm just trying to maintain the maximum entry speed. I must have felt I've probably slowed it down a tiny bit too much. I can just edge it back up a little bit. But anyway, you could have just run slightly wider. Next one, though, again, just a massive improvement. Mid-corner, at least. I know you've kind of got this W shape, which I know we want to iron that out, make it a V or a U. So you have still slightly overslowed, realised, and then sped back up again. But you're dramatically quicker than you were going before. So it's this that we want to change. So going forward, we want to just flatten out. We want a long, gentle trail brake rather than a spike and then off. That will then reduce how steep your deceleration is here. It'll be more gentle. You'll have more downforce. You'll still reach the minimum speed here, but you won't have to speed up to it and then back away from it. So that will be better, but you're already way better.
A very little bit of pressure there. I see. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Let's
just for longer.
Let's delete that lap and bring up the one that you completed. Not that one, this one. So I assume it was that one, wasn't it? So let's just
I think that was it.
You actually did 2 identical laps, but one was with off track, so.
Oh, that's neat.
So same again. Let's have a little look at this. Yeah, so turn 1, actually, you've kind of begun being a bit too cautious. So that's something we can fix. That's something I don't think you did this on every lap, but on this lap and on the other lap we looked at, you're a little bit early on the brakes now. So we can go back to where you were before.
I need to brake after the 50.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm doing that too soon.
So
or after the 100, wherever it is.
Yeah, where is it? Let's go back to it.
Yeah, right after the 100, not before, which I think I'm doing it too soon.
Yeah, we're just braking slightly too early. It's not massive, but there's a little gain to be had there. This looks more like it. This is more like it. So on this particular lap, you were better than before on the braking. You got down to a minimum speed slightly early, and then got on the power slightly early, which pushed you a bit wide, but you were smooth getting on. So you can actually let it rotate. This is unusual, actually, to see it. You've nearly nailed the minimum speed, slightly slower than it could be, but the shape is correct. You've got this real nice V, but we just want to, before you were a bit too late, minimum speed, now we're a little bit too early. We want to just bring it somewhere to the middle, like right in the middle there, and that's going to, we also want to just delay the throttle, so we just want to be a little bit further around. So you can see on the way your speed began to increase, and then you were like, oh crap, I've run wide, and you had to kind of get out of it, and that killed it on the exit. So we just want that to be a little bit more of a smooth transition on the exit. Let's just bring that lap up to look at whilst we're talking about it. It's this one here, isn't it? Yeah, so this is this one. Yeah, you see, we can feel it now. I know you can't hear it. I'll turn the volume up here actually, so you'll hear it on the replay. But
yeah, if I had been able to hit that corner closer to the apex, then I would have been all right.
But also, if you just, even on this line, if you just waited a couple more moments before you got on the power, you're on the power like now, which pushes you here, and then it's like, oh crap, and then you get beached and spin the wheels. If you just waited for the car to rotate to like here, then got on the power, it wouldn't have pushed you wide. So you'd have got an even, even though you missed the apex slightly, it would have still been a good lap. Hitting the apex there isn't the be-all and end-all. You'll watch Formula 1 drivers miss that deliberately. You can get a good exit as long as you get it rotated in the middle. So yeah, that's that. That's the only little tweak there. That's what will fix that. Okay, right, next corner. This is great. Really good. Way better. Much closer through there. And you were quicker than me through the mid-corner and still got a good exit. So that's good. That was a decent one. So well done. You did manage to brake quite a lot later than before and carry more entry speed, so that's good. Okay, something happened here. This is why this lap wasn't faster. You've gone in slightly too narrow and slightly too fast for this one, and it's pushed you really to a minimum speed quite a lot later. Yeah, you've had to wait on the throttle. So you can see the green's gone in narrow. It's gone wider in the middle. Yeah, okay, let's just watch it.
My braking was almost identical to yours on that one.
Ah, it's that.
Although you slow it down, you applied the second little pop of brakes, where I did not, and I kept my speed up, so I was going to lose it.
So I think you on the map we saw that you've gone in narrow here. You kind of realised this where the green's gone in narrow. You kind of realised and turned away from the corner. So you turn in and then you turn back out again. You see it on the steering here. So if I go in super slow-mo, so you start to turn in and you're like, oh, I'm going to get to the inside way too early here. And you kind of then straighten up and then go again but it's kind of too late at this point, and we've already lost the benefit of that nice smooth line in, and then we're in a bit of a four-wheel drift actually, and then you've got an oversteer moment because you've come in so narrow. That's mainly the line that's the issue there, because your speed on the entry is great. Like, oh, I just zoomed in way too far. Let's go back to here. Yeah, look, your speed on the entry is like absolutely matching me, like perfectly. But by this point, you're matching me on speed, but the line is way tighter. So you can't carry that same speed. And then now the line's much tighter and you're actually going faster than me, so the car just can't cope with it. And that's why you've got this kind of, this slide going on here, and it's pushed you a bit wide. So I hate it. It feels so mean criticising you when you've nailed it. And look at the braking shape. Yeah, you just look at that. It's like bang on.
Yeah.
It's purely the line. It's purely that everything went so well. You probably went in a bit quicker than you normally do. And you do naturally start to turn in early. When people go in a bit faster than they're comfortable with, it's a real natural reaction to just edge the steering in. But yeah, that's what's hurt you there. So if you're gonna go in that quick, I would actually say just slightly underdrive it compared to that. A bit like the final penultimate corner where you matched me, but it didn't quite come off. So you can just wind it back a touch, and you'll still be way quicker than you went before, because you then lost a chunk of time there. You were like perfect, and obviously we had to delay the throttle.
Yep.
Next corner, yeah, like we saw on that other lap, like you've halved the gap and you've matched me on the exit, and there's still more width to use. Like you can still go wider. So, but
I just need to use less brake. I'm braking still way too much.
Yeah, like on that other one we just saw.
Yep.
It's that spike, whereas we want a long, gentle one. That's it. And then final two corners where this time you didn't spin. Here we go. This is what we want to see. If it lets me. Okay, so you remember how before you matched my entry speed and it spun? This time you went in way faster than me. Great braking trace again, but just a bit too late on the brakes. So that's probably why it doesn't want to go down a gear. Look how much later it's going down a gear for you, because you're going way faster than me. It's like 8 miles an hour, sorry, 8 kilometers an hour faster than me on the entry. So that's why it doesn't want to go in. That's why you're then slow on the exit, because you've kind of got a bit deep. So yeah, that can feel much more under control. You're actually trying too hard into there. So let's just wind that back a bit, and then it'll be more accurate. You'll be able to get on the power earlier on the exit here, on this short straight. Last corner, great. Really great. I mean, it's just night and day, isn't it? And you've nailed the braking shape. Absolutely. You're doing so well with these braking shapes, considering you can't feel it as easily. When we looked at what you were doing earlier with these big spikes of red, and when you look at where the green is in comparison to that now, it's just a dramatic improvement. You're not using 6th gear, which is great, and the speeds are just like way closer. It's only here and here now where there's a little bit more still to gain, and that I'd say is an unusual error more than anything, because you went in a bit narrow. This one's good. So yeah, that's great. Sorry, I'm going to lose my voice talking so much, but that was really good. Really great improvement. So yeah, go do it more. Just go practice more. You've got this saved now. I'm going to stop the recording now, so we've definitely